Foligno goes out there and stands there and doesn't do anything, I think there's serious heat about it. I really do.
What's the week on the Real Kyper at Noon show if we don't catch up with Doug McLean? Find out where he is, and can we get him to sit still long enough to get some analysis? And the hottest story continues today, revolving around the Toronto Maple Leafs and the health of John Tavares. So let's find out where he is first of all. Mac, where the hell are you?
Just outside Lexington, Kentucky, at the Kentucky Horse Park is a campground here right attached to the Kentucky Horse Park. Mackenzie is in a competition and hanging out at the stables. So we're here for 4 days. So it's perfect. So we came through the Old Smoky National Park, stayed in the park a couple of nights. First time in 20 years that I haven't had cell service for 35 hours. It was so nice. It was so nice. Zero cell service, zero internet in the Smoky National Park.
So
Smoky.
Just quality time with you and Jill with no interruptions.
It's unbelievable. You got to get an RV. You got to get an RV and hit the road.
I am just looking now, a much different look than the one we've been used to in your condo in Florida. I'm watching, I'm going through my social media, and Justin Bieber took us on a tour of his traveling bus. Are you going to do the same thing for us in your RV? It looks great in there. You look very comfortable.
On the couch and in the slide out in the living area, we got the seats, the driver's and the passenger seat turned around, so they're here. But I can't take you on a tour because I'm on a tripod right now.
Don't touch anything.
I'd be a little nervous if I started to move it, so I'm going to just leave it on the tripod. But we'll give you a tour. It's not that big. It's 25 feet long, so it's not that long of a tour, but it's comfortable.
Do us a favor, eh? Put the emergency brake on right now. I don't want you to start rolling on us halfway through this.
Hey, I got to tell you though, last night, joint I walk in and I say, listen, I do TV in Canada. I know you probably don't believe this. I'm saying to the manager, but I do TV in Canada. I have to do a show tomorrow morning. And is there any way you can give me the 3 games right on this TV, these 3 TVs? And the guy says, hey, that's great. That's great. Now, if you're in Canada, it would have been a little bit easier to get it done. But in Lexington, Kentucky, the service was unbelievable. So I was thrilled. At Buffalo Wings is where I was and watched the 3 games. It was unbelievable.
You're telling me once you walked in the door, they didn't all scream, hey, Mac!
No, I had to beg them, and then luckily there was a couple of guys with Crosby jerseys on sitting at the bar. So I knew that it was going to be hockey. So it worked out good.
Good. So the focus, I think, a little bit more on Toronto and just your initial thoughts, Mac, when you saw John Tavares go down and the way he went down and everything that followed it.
Well, first of all, I'm thinking, okay, good neutral zone hit by Sherratt. That was the game plan. We're going to come out. We're going to be physical, especially on their top guys. Sherratt gets a good hit, not expecting to see P.E.I. come through and get him with the knee. Looked accidental. But then from there it was ugly, and to see John Tavares struggle like that was sort of ups. And Jill was with me and a friend of hers, and it's like, are you kidding? This kid is in peril. This kid is in terrible shape. And to see the thumbs up going off the ice, which is that great hockey thing that they do for their families, I'll tell you what, it was a relief. But John Tavares is a competitive superstar, and to see him go down like that was really concerning, let me tell you.
Mac, I think he's gone through the best stretch I've seen him perhaps we can look back and see there's more production in certain areas since he's been a Toronto Maple Leaf. But I've really been impressed, I think, in the last month of watching him go a little harder in terms of push. And I think he was primed for, at the very least, to come in as a strong 1-2 punch with Matthews.
Well,
we don't know the severity yet of what is so far been reported in terms of the finer details, but it does appear that we are, best case scenario, only looking at a concussion. And I know the severity of a concussion, but it doesn't appear like structurally anything's been broken or
right.
Strained, and that's got to be a little bit of a good news scenario.
Like, I think you hit it there. He was focused, and I think that the Foligno addition sort of inspired him a bit, because then he knows Hyman's going to be with Matthews and Marner. He gets Nylander and Foligno, and he's got a veteran with him on the wing. I think he felt really good about that line, and I think it got him going in the last few weeks. More, I mean, not going, but playing just exceptional hockey. So, yeah, disappointing to lose him. It happens. Unfortunately, it happens. We've seen the Stamkoses go down. We've seen great players go down. Toronto, they've got to overcome this. And it won't be easy. We talked about it last week, Nick. Montreal are going to come with a game plan that's going to put this game in the dirty areas and play them in the trenches. Ducharme had them primed for that last night.
Before, Mac, we get into where Sheldon goes with his lineup with no Tavares, just from your experience as a coach, general manager, we've all been a part of games where, Mac, we've seen guys carried off in stretchers, and this is 10 minutes into the game, and we heard Wayne Simmons in a interview after the first period talking about finding ways to kind of overcome this and regrouping. Sheldon Keefe in his post-game comments talked about how the team was rattled because of it. Was that 10 minutes in enough to derail the Leafs the rest of the way and be a big part of losing the hockey game?
I don't think it should be. There's enough, look, Dubas and company spent the summer bringing in veteran guys, and the Spetzes, the Thorntons, the Simmons, the Brodies. Morgan Riley's a veteran. Matthews is becoming that veteran. Marner's a veteran now. I mean, look, there's enough. Foligno's there. To me, it's disheartening, but it can't derail you. I thought Montreal set the tone even before that. I thought Montreal set the tone before Tavares went down that this was going to be a battle. And I know Tavares rattled them. It's normal and natural that it rattles them, but they got to bounce back out of that. And that'll be the focus for game 2. But even in game 1, I didn't like the response by a lot of guys. And, Montreal, they just continued on with their game plan. Now, come on, Carey Price was very good. We've talked about that he owes them. He owes them big time, and he performed last night. Weber, injured, banged up, 22, 23 minutes last night. So I thought Montreal, Tavares Singh rattled the Leafs. I thought Montreal stayed focused with their game plan.
Carbon copy, if I'm not mistaken, of the blueprint for Montreal that beat Pittsburgh last year in the bubble.
I think it is with a better team, Nick. I think it is with the addition. Like, we saw what Anderson can do. I mean, he to Foley, even in Edmonton, who's, we've talked about their back end being too slow. But I said a week ago that I've seen slow back ends really play well in playoff series. So regular season, slow on the back end can kill you, but if you're going to be slow, you better be mean and you better be positionally sound. And that's what Montreal were last night. So, yeah, carbon copy of last year's, but with a better group, a better team, a more veteran team.
And that veteran presence in the forefront, Corey Perry. And a lot of people, because it was Corey Perry that ended up kneeing John Tavares, have to ask the question, was it avoidable? Did he do it intentionally? All of those questions surface, Mac. And there's a lot of people that say, I don't like Corey Perry. I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt. And we know,
well, look,
we are, because we've been around the game long enough to say that you cannot, when things happen that quickly, there's just no way Corey Perry had anything intentionally in mind here.
Look, Perry is always around these situations. He's always around them, you know. Incidental contact with goaltenders, incidental contact here, there, and everywhere. I thought it was accidental. I wasn't convinced he wasn't trying to come through there and maybe get a piece of him after the hit, but I still believe that the knee to the head was accidental, for sure. It was. In my opinion, it was. But you know what? This guy is around garbage all the time. He loves this time of year. He stood in and had to fight Foligno, who's a good fighter. He stood in there, and you know, all of a sudden, he was a pretty important guy. This is a guy that was an extra at the start of the season. This is a guy not many people wanted, Nick. They signed him for $700,000. He was pretty instrumental. Can he keep it up? We'll see. He's too slow in the regular season. Back to the speed factor. He's been too slow in the regular season, but he's not too slow at playoff time. Explain that one to me.
Game just finds a way to tighten up, Mac. The lanes aren't there in the playoffs as they are in the regular season. And the
space isn't there.
And what happens?
Montreal, the only way Montreal can win this game is if every inch of that ice is battled for. And they were ready for it.
And what does that do? It drops the level of Marners and Matthews, and it rises up the level of the Corey Perrys when the foot speed isn't as necessary.
Now the question is, Toronto can still score. They still had a lot of chances. The team that, if a team is going to beat the Leafs, you still have to have great play, great battles for ice, but you still need exceptional goaltending.
Just want to stay.
If the Habs get it, we'll see.
Just want to stay on the theme of Foligno versus Perry, because the theme was whether or not that fight fit the situation. And we know other scenarios, Mac, when it's questionable hits.
Yeah.
If we go back to Vancouver and Alex Edler on Hyman, and then a Simmons scenario, this one didn't have the same feel, but Nick Foligno decides to go challenge Corey Perry. And, you know, do you give Corey credit, Perry, just for answering the bell? Me personally, I probably would have been in a situation where I wouldn't have necessarily said, hey, Nick, I'm not fighting just completely on your terms here. I maybe would have let it breathe a little bit, Mac. I would have maybe if you want to chase me the rest of the night, trying to get me off my game, and it throws your team off, maybe that would play in my team's situation a little better. But he said, I obliged, and it was over with. Is that enough here to close it? Was it a good decision by Foligno to do it? Was it a good decision by Perry to answer it? I'm not necessarily sure, but certainly in hindsight, it worked out well for the Montreal Canadiens, and it didn't give the juice to the Leafs that I think Nick and maybe others were hoping. You know what?
I think the team, the Leafs, were still rattled by the Tavares thing. I noticed the stick taps on the bench were sporadic after the fight. I mean, that sort of caught me a little off guard. Foligno did it because Foligno came in as this leader, solid, tough guy that plays hard and competes this time of year. Foligno did it because this has been a huge buildup on this guy. This is a consummate team guy. You talk to anybody in Columbus, anywhere he's ever been, they love this guy. He did it because he felt it was the right thing to do. A lot of people want to poo-poo it. I'm not. I'm saying Nick felt it was the right thing to do. He's a veteran. He wanted to make P.E.I. answer for it. I don't disagree with your take on it, but I just think the pressure on Foligno. If Foligno goes out there and stands there and doesn't do anything, I think there's serious heat about it. I really do.
Well, it is a crapshoot, and it's ultimately about the individual to make those decisions, and that's fine with me. Hey, the Leafs could have scored 5 minutes later, and Leaf fans would have been trumpeting Nick Foligno as a savior, and what a gutsy thing to do, and how it rallied the players.
100%.
And it was great. It didn't work out that way, and you move on.
Yeah, and look, we can talk all we want about. The battle is going to be there. The Leafs are going to pay a price because Montreal are going to be physical. The Leafs have got to overcome it. And if Montreal are going to play this way, Nick, if they're going to play a ferocious game, you better have your power play ready to play.
Wow, that's the other big story. It's seeped right into the first round. 0 for 4, Mac. The struggles of 6 weeks now, 7 weeks of a power play. This thing has turned into a disaster right now for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And watching the switch, Mac, not just game 1, but the last 2 weeks of moving Morgan Rielly out and Sandin in. I like Sandin. I think he's got a chance to be a great player for the Leafs. But that's a lot of weight on this kid to carry a team that's supposed to contend for the Stanley Cup on your shoulders as early as game 1, and he got burned bad on the shorthanded marker.
We questioned Rielly a few weeks ago about not being that number 1 point present guy, and he isn't on the power play. He isn't that number 1. He's a tremendous player. He's a tremendous defenseman. He does a ton of stuff, but the power play is not his strength. But you don't go with a kid over a veteran guy like that this time of year. You can try that here and there. Sorry, the penalty killing is a lot more challenging at playoff time. Sandin, I agree with you. He's got great potential, but you got Morgan Rielly there, and I think you got to go with the veteran presence there versus the kid with potential. That bothered me, and it's bothered me for a few days, but that's okay. It'll be interesting to see what Keith and what adjustments he makes, and who takes Tavares' place as center on that number 2 line. So there's some big decisions for Keith to come up with here.
Certainly, we were talking about a horrible giveaway by Joe Thornton that led to that shorthanded goal by Byron, and the decision for Sandin to go down early and try to sweep the puck away, only to fail miserably. What an incredible individual effort by Paul Byron here. But Mac, that's the other thing too.
I had to look. I thought, who the hell is that?
Yeah,
he just did that because he was on waivers. He's been in and out and up and down. And,
incredible.
Great play, and a great play on the goaltender.
Is there a concern right now in terms of Wayne Simmons, Spezza with a couple of bad penalties, and the Thornton giveaway here? Too slow, Mac?
Well, we talked about the speed is a less of a factor, but they did not look good last night. And there's been rave reviews about what they've meant to this team, and deservedly so. Good moves. But now this is the time of year they were brought in for. Regular season, fine. This is the time when they need this mental toughness. You need this group to be real leaders for even the younger guys in this team that, hey, Foligno, Thornton, Spezza, Simmons, but you can't be a leader, Nick, on a team unless you perform.
Okay.
You got to perform to be a leader.
That that leads me right into this question that you just touched on. Who is stepping in for Tavares? Because knowing Joe Thornton and the competitor he is, he wants that spot. He is today going into the office and saying, let me carry that second line. And if you're Sheldon Keefe, you tell him what?
If Joe Thornton comes into my office and tells me I want to crack at the second, first of all, Keefe knows who he wants in there. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, who does he want in there? I've been thinking this since last night. Does he want Kerfoot in there for his speed? I didn't like Kerfoot as the third centerman last year against Columbus. As a third centerman, look, he brings speed. He's a good player. This is a big role. Riley Nash, to me, can't fit there, although he did have some good numbers in Boston when he had to move up because of injuries, but that was a few years ago. I like
Spezza, Thornton?
I mean, that's the question. Is it Spezza or Thornton that goes in there? And then, because Joe can make plays, Spezza can make plays. I mean, I think he's got to give them a consideration there. I think he does. And Kerfoot will probably be the guy that goes in.
This is where your depth has to come through. If you're dealing with a Jason Spezza who put up remarkable numbers over the course of averaging 12 minutes a night, I would think that he should be leading that offense on the second line.
But here's what I would do if I was Keith. I would give Thornton a shot, and I'd give Kerfoot a shot. And he's got to be quick to decide where he's going here. I think he's got to be conscious of Thornton's foot speed. You got to give Kerfoot and Thornton a look in both. For me, both. And I'd leave Spezza where he is, and I'd give it either to one of those other guys. And I hope it's not Kerfoot, but I may be wrong on it. The kid has actually played pretty well this year.
Nick Kyprios, Doug McLean coming from an RV in the middle of nowhere, middle America. How great is this? Hey, do me a favor. Check over your shoulder for bears right now.
Oh, my God. I'm on a hike yesterday. I meet this guy. He's got his backpack on with his tent, and he's got a gun and a holster on front. I said, is that a taser or is that a gun? He said, that's a military gun, man. He said, as I said, wild hogs and bears. I ain't touching that one.
This is awesome. We are camping with Doug McLean here.